In the bustling heart of ancient Rome, amidst the grandeur of the Colosseum and the Forum, stood the public baths, a testament to Roman ingenuity and a cornerstone of their daily life. For the Romans, bathing was more than just a necessity. It was a ritual, a social event, a way of life. And at the center of this ritual stood the bath attendants, the unsung heroes who kept the wheels of this social machine well oiled. These men were the backbone of Roman bathhouses. Their days began before the sun peeked over the horizon and ended long after it had set. They woke before dawn, eager to secure the best positions for the day. The closer to the furnace room, the better, for that meant proximity to the coveted hot baths. There they would wait, sometimes for hours, hoping to be chosen by patrons seeking a luxurious soak. Their work was arduous. They shoveled coal into the furnaces, stoked the fires that heated the rooms, and carried water from the public aqueducts to keep the baths filled. It was a thankless job, but one that was essential to the smooth functioning of the bathhouse. Their muscles grew strong from the constant labor, their skin tanned and leathery from the heat of the furnaces. Despite the physical toll, there was a camaraderie among the bath attendants. They shared stories, jokes, and dreams, finding solace in their shared struggles. Some even became quite wealthy, earning enough to buy their freedom or even own their own bathhouses. But not all was rosy in this seemingly idyllic setting. For every patron lounging in the baths, enjoying the fruits of the slave's labor, there were 3 to 4 slaves working tirelessly behind the scenes. The pay was meager, the hours were long, and the conditions were often unbearable. In the stifling heat of the furnace room, with the threat of fire ever present, these men toiled. Yet they persevered, driven by the hope of a better life. The invention of the public bathhouse was a pivotal moment in Roman history. It was a space where men from all walks of life came together. Senators and slaves, soldiers and merchants, all were welcome in the communal baths. It was a melting pot of Roman society, a microcosm of the empire itself. As you finish your dip in the tepidarum, you overhear 2 men discussing the latest political scandal. A senator is caught in a web of deceit, his reputation as clean as the water you just rinsed off. But the whispers don't end there. They drift to the furnaces, to the very heart of the bathhouse, where men work tirelessly to keep the water warm and the fires burning. Their voices fade into the background, yet their work continues. The baths are a place of contrasts, of luxury and labor, of gossip and grit. And it's here, in the heart of Rome, where power meets perspiration and the echoes of the past still linger. The air in the caldorium, the hot room, is thick and heavy, like breathing through wool. You've been here since before sunrise, long before the first patrons arrived. Your task? Simple in name, endless in practice. Keep the floors clean. Keep the fires fed. Keep the water running. And above all, don't speak unless spoken to. The walls drip with condensation. Steam seeps into your tunic, which clings damply to your back. The bricks are warm beneath your feet, too warm at times, and in the hypocaust chamber below, where the fires rage, it's worse still. You've been down there, crawling on hands and knees, shoveling ash and rearranging logs, your face slick with sweat and soot. You are one of the bellinators, attendants of the bathhouse. You carry buckets of warm water from one pool to another. You sweep out stray hairs and flakes of skin. You collect towels that smell faintly of vinegar and human effort, and you scrub benches slick with oil and the faint trace of old perfumes. Sometimes a patron will snap their fingers at you. "Boy," they'll say, without turning their head, "bring oil." You nod silently and fetch the flask. If you're lucky, they toss you a coin. If you're not, they blame you for a stubbed toe or a broken sandal strap. Insults are common. A cuff to the ear, not unheard of. Caligula, the 3rd emperor of Rome, was born into power, into luxury, and most of all, into baths. History tells us little of his early life, but it seems clear that his mother, Julia Misa, doted on him. She oversaw the construction of the opulent Baths of Julia Misa, complete with a gymnasium, library, and sculpture garden. And she made sure her favorite son knew no chore too menial, no pleasure too decadent. At age 14, Caligula accompanied his father, the Emperor Tiberius, on a tour of the provinces. During their travels, he delighted in chariot races, gladiatorial combat, and yes, public baths. Upon returning to Rome, his mother had an even grander set of baths constructed for him near the palace. They were called the Baths of the Young Emperor. When Tiberius died in 37 CE, Caligula inherited not just a vast fortune and a crumbling empire, but also a profound love of bathing. He was seen regularly at the public baths, sometimes alone, sometimes with prostitutes. While the elite Romans of the era enjoyed a typical bath routine of cold plunge, sweat bath, and massage, Caligula preferred to bathe with wine. He kept a permanent supply of Falernian wine on tap at his private bath, which was heated by a furnace fueled with resin and oil. While wine was meant to cleanse and purify the body, it also made Caligula's skin unnaturally red, a fact that inspired both awe and disgust among his subjects. In the public baths, he would cover himself with gold leaf and scrape it off to remove dirt and dead skin. This practice, known as gold leafing, was reserved for the most important rituals of the Roman state and was normally only performed by the emperor on the most auspicious of occasions. But Caligula did nothing in moderation. Gold leafing became a regular occurrence. The spoiled teenager turned despot was criticized for his outsized love of luxury and his extravagant use of gold. But he continued to bathe, to wine and to preen until his untimely death in 41 CE at the age of 28. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a date with destiny. Or perhaps a hot stone and a cold plunge awaits. For the story of Rome's greatest emperor and his great love of bathing, stay tuned for more tales of the Roman Empire. When we think of ancient Rome, images of emperors come to mind, men who lived for conquest and ceremony, who bathed in gold and wine. But what did those baths really look like? What secrets did they hold? And how did the most powerful man in the world relax? Today, we visit the Baths of Caracalla, the largest bathing complex in Rome. It's here where the great Emperor Caracalla would shed not just his clothes, but the weight of an empire. Meet the emperor who loved baths. Caracalla wasn't your typical Roman emperor. Sure, he liked the finer things, but his true passion was, well, baths. We're talking hot tubs, cold plunges, the whole spa experience. This guy was all about balance. Work hard, bathe harder. But don't get the wrong idea. This emperor knew how to get down and dirty. He wasn't afraid to roll up his sleeves and get his hands stained with oil and dirt. You know, the finer points of bathhouse etiquette. Now, you might be thinking, why does an emperor need a personal bathhouse? Well, in Rome, luxury was a weapon. The grander the bath, the greater the emperor. It was a message to the provinces, a symbol of Rome's wealth and power. And no one understood this better than Caracalla. His baths weren't just a place to relax. They were a tool to remind everyone who was in charge. But baths weren't the only thing on Caracalla's mind. He was also a big fan of, well, conquering stuff. He spent much of his reign campaigning against the Germans and the Parthians. But even a warrior needs to unwind. So imagine this. You're in ancient Rome. The year is 212 CE. You've just finished a long day at the gladiator school. Or maybe you're a senator trying to beat the heat. Where do you go to relax? Easy, the Baths of Caracalla. Just make sure you bring enough money for a whole experience. We're talking about a full day of pampering here. A skilled slave would give you a soapy scrub, slap your back till it's red, and then give you a massage by digging their elbows as hard as they can into every crevice of your back. Seriously, It's not for the faint of heart. But hey, if you can afford it, why not? After all, the emperor himself is probably there getting the same treatment. But wait, there's more. You can take a dip in the frigidarium, the cold plunge pool, or sweat it out in the caldarium, the hot sauna. And when you're all cleaned up and relaxed, you can head over to the palestra, the exercise yard, and work on your fitness. But don't worry, if that sounds too intense, you can always just hang out in the tepidarium, the warm bathhouse, or read a book in the library. So what are you waiting for? Come spend a day at the Baths of Caracalla, the ultimate Roman spa experience. When the great Roman Emperor Hadrian visited the city of Toulouse, he found it dirty. In the year 130, he wrote to the local governor with complaints. The streets were filthy, the water supply undrinkable. Basically, the place needed a bath. So Hadrian did what any reasonable emperor would do. He sent in the military to build him one. Thus began Rome's conquest of the bathhouse. Soldiers and sailors were mobilized across the empire, bringing marble from Carrara, Greece, and even Africa. And in just 3 years, they had created the largest bath complex the world had ever seen. It was a gift to the people of Rome, or so the propaganda said. But really, it was a gift to the emperor. See, these weren't just baths, they were a status symbol. They were a way to control the population. And most importantly, they were a giant, glorious distraction from the fact that Rome was kind of in the middle of a recession. The Baths of Caracalla were built during the reign of Caracalla, Hadrian's grandson. And while he enjoyed a more modest rise in power, he loved the baths so much that he built his own beside the Tiber River. There, he would bathe in pools heated to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, surrounded by gold leafing and crystal chandeliers. And though the common folk could use the public baths, they were kept separate from the emperor's private chambers. Caracalla was an enigma, to say the least. Beneath the elegance lay unease. Caracalla's personality, like the scalding pools he bathed in, was intense. He was known for his temper, his paranoia, and his acts of cruelty, sometimes veiled in reason, often not. He ordered the execution of his own brother Geta, right within the arms of their grieving mother. Blood spilled on palace floors, not long after he'd soaked in scented water. He feared betrayal. He feared rivals. The baths, once a symbol of order and public health, became in his time a backdrop to whispered schemes and glances over the shoulder. Still the people came, some for cleanliness, some for politics, some simply to be seen. Eventually, the emperor took to the road. In 217, he traveled east, seeking to shore up the empire's eastern provinces and continue his father's campaigns. Somewhere near Kerhe, in present-day Turkey, he paused his journey to relieve himself at the side of the road. And there, unguarded and vulnerable, Caracalla was struck down by one of his own soldiers. The motives remain murky, perhaps personal grievance, perhaps the latest in a line of imperial betrayals. But thus ended the reign of the emperor, who built grand baths, yet could never wash away the stain of his tyranny. His body was burned, his ashes returned to Rome. The Baths of Caracalla remained, silent, still, a monument to power, paranoia, and perhaps the need for a few calm moments amid the chaos of empire. The emperors came and went, but the water continued to flow. Now, let us move beyond the emperors, into the hidden infrastructure that made these pleasures possible. An aqueduct forgotten by time, mysterious, ancient, and essential to Rome's thirst for more. Most of the aqueduct's visible remains come from its final stretch, where it cascaded into a series of basins near the Baths of Caracalla. These ruins include a large arched vat called a piscina, which likely held warm water drawn from the adjacent baths. But piecing together the route that brought water to this point has been like navigating a stony labyrinth. Fragments of the aqueduct poke up from the ground at various points, but they rarely form a continuous or recognizable line. The open sections were likely paved over during the medieval period when the land was repurposed for farming. And whatever structures once stood here have long since crumbled. Still, scholars have managed to piece together a few key sections, including a 13-meter-high overpass near the Porta Matronia, the aqueduct's only known bridge over a road. Another section surfaces near the Piazza Venezia, revealing an elegant curve in the structure's final approach to the baths. It's a tantalizing glimpse into the aqueduct's former glory. And yet these fragments only emphasize how much of the aqueduct's course is still unknown. In fact, the portion that fed the Campus Martis remains a complete mystery. It may be lost forever. The Thermae Alexandrinae themselves, with their grand vaulted ceilings and mosaic floors, were demolished in the Middle Ages, leaving no trace. But their public baths once echoed with the laughter of Roman boys and men, as they enjoyed the day as hottest gossip while being scrubbed and massaged by slaves. They relaxed in the tepidarium, the dry sauna, or the frigidarium, the freezing cold pool. And for those who could afford it, a private oil massage was the ultimate luxury. These communal spaces were more than just a place to bathe. They were hubs of social life. It was here that patrons could rub shoulders with influential people while enjoying a glass of wine and the lively chatter of friends. Life in ancient Rome was busy and noisy. The aqueduct's gentle murmur would have been a soothing counterpoint to the clamor of the city. No longer heard, a whisper of water and stone is all that remains. Welcome to my channel. The year is 1981. You are a world-renowned archaeologist. For decades, you've been excavating a sprawling complex of baths in the heart of Rome. Your team has uncovered a vast heating system, intricate plumbing, the frigidarium, the caldorium, the tepidarium. All around you, echoes of the past come alive. Yet something crucial is missing. The baths needed water, enormous volumes of it, hot, cold, tepid. But where did it come from? The answer lies hidden beneath the city, a forgotten aqueduct known as the Aqua Alexandrina. Over centuries, records of it faded. Its channels were broken, its path obscured by the shifting cityscape and the relentless weight of time. Today, modern archaeologists have found fragments, pieces of brick, channels carved into hillsides, occasional masonry stamped with the mark of Severus. But much of the Aqua Alexandrina remains untraced. Unlike the more famous aqueducts, whose soaring arches still catch the Roman sky, this one lives mostly underground and in speculation. And yet, it was vital. Without it, the baths would be just a ruin, a silent, empty shell. The pools would have no water, the fountains no spouts, the basins no glisten. Without the aqueducts, including the Alexandrina, the entire system would collapse into dry stone and silence. You run a hand over the cool marble, imagining the steam rising, the scent of cedarwood and lavender, the murmur of voices. In your mind's eye, you see a procession of emperors and empresses, the elite of Rome, senators and freedmen, all bathed in the golden glow of candlelight. You picture them toiling in the forum, pleading in the courts, dining in the taverns, all sustained by the unseen energy that flows through these very stones. But let us step back now from the baths, from the forum, from the clamor of the city, and follow the course of the aqueduct. Picture a narrow channel, lined with stone, the faint echo of water slipping past, far below the city's noise. Above, life carried on as normal. Senators debated laws, vendors hawked dates, slaves hauled empery. But deep beneath their feet, the aqueduct worked without pause, day and night, nourishing the metropolis from unseen arteries. And so the Aqua Alexandrina, though forgotten, never truly disappeared. It lingers in the earth, in the silt of crumbling tunnels, in the damp air of subterranean ruins. Its mystery is quiet, steady, much like the water it once carried. And here, at the end of the day, as the sun bleeds into the horizon, we find our answer. not in grand monuments or triumphal arches, but in the patient layering of earth, the whisper of water in stone, the echo of a city sustained. The aqueduct is here, all around us, beneath our feet, a constant Jaiwa artery of the eternal city. Ah, the perfumed oils! No bather in the ancient world would be caught dead without them. Literally, oils were applied not just for cleanliness, but as a form of beautification, a sign of wealth and status. Slaves would gently rub you down, the cool oil bringing goosebumps to your skin. In the tepidarium, the temperature rises. Here, marble benches surround you, heated by the efforts of dozens of slaves turning cranks in stoking furnaces. Conversation is hushed, respectful. The elite of Rome do not bathe in the same room together. There are too many things to discuss, too much power in such close proximity. Politics are whispered here, conspiracies hatched, deals made. As you sweat, the oil working its way into your pores, you know that you are surrounded by men who could have you killed, have your fortune confiscated and given to them. So you speak in low tones, too, of influential friends and distant enemies, of how the new aqueduct tastes of chlorine, of how the emperor's daughter is being pushed to marry a senator twice her age. The heat makes your skin flush. Powerful men become boys, laughing and slapping one another on the back. But if you listen closely, you can still hear the undercurrent of Roman whispers, the language of power. Even in the frigidarium, the freezing cold pool, it continues. For even as you plunge into icy water, shivering uncontrollably, someone has to tell you something, and you wouldn't want to miss it for the world. Welcome to the tepidarium. Imagine stepping into a sauna and being enveloped by gentle warmth all around you. That's what it's like here. The floor beneath you is heated from beneath by the hypocaust, the same underfloor furnace, tended by anonymous laborers whose names you'll never know. You recline on a bench, breathing in air thick with steam and scented oil. This is where the conversations begin. You murmur politics between sips of diluted wine, testing alliances, marriages, arranging, offering bribes. From here, the transition is seamless. To the caldarium, where hot pools soothe your aching muscles, but challenge your endurance. The air is stifling, the water nearly scalding. Only the truly seasoned bather lingers long in these pools. And finally, the frigidarium, where a plunge into the cold is a shock to the system. A sharp breath, a brief shiver. The water is dark and still. The room is circular, domed, and you emerge refreshed, slightly breathless, skin tingling. Before you leave, a slave massages perfumed oil into your back. Another scrapes it off with a curved bronze strigil. There is no soap, not in the modern sense, but the ritual is familiar. Purification, repetition, routine. Even here, in this luxurious oasis, rest is not quite restful. Eyes watch from every corner. Rivals pretend to laugh. Messages are passed in folded notes, concealed in sandals. You must speak carefully, smile strategically, bathe beautifully, because in the elite circles of Rome, every moment is a performance. Half submerged in warm water, you are still playing the game. You dress, you nod, you step back into the light of the Roman afternoon, cleansed in body and exhausted in spirit. And somewhere behind you in the echoing halls of Diocletian's bath, steam continues to rise as it always has. This is Rome. If you want to know more about the steamy secrets of the ancient world, stay tuned for more information. Welcome to the tepidarium. Imagine stepping into a sauna and being enveloped by gentle warmth all around you. That's what it's like here. The floor beneath you is heated from beneath by the hypocaust, the same underfloor furnace, tended by anonymous laborers whose names you'll never know. You recline on a bench, breathing in air thick with steam and scented oil. This is where the conversations begin. You murmur politics between sips of diluted wine, testing alliances, marriages, arranging, offering bribes. From here, the transition is seamless. To the caldarium, where hot pools soothe your aching muscles, but challenge your endurance. The air is stifling, the water nearly scalding. Only the truly seasoned bather lingers long in these pools. And finally, the frigidarium, where a plunge into the cold is a shock to the system. A sharp breath, a brief shiver. The water is dark and still. The room is circular, domed, and you emerge refreshed, slightly breathless, skin tingling. Before you leave, a slave massages perfumed oil into your back. Another scrapes it off with a curved bronze strigil. There is no soap, not in the modern sense, but the ritual is familiar. Purification, repetition, routine. Even here, in this luxurious oasis, rest is not quite restful. Eyes watch from every corner. Rivals pretend to laugh. Messages are passed in folded notes, concealed in sandals. You must speak carefully, smile strategically, bathe beautifully, because in the elite circles of Rome, every moment is a performance. Half submerged in warm water, you are still playing the game. You dress, you nod, you step back into the light of the Roman afternoon, cleansed in body and exhausted in spirit. And somewhere behind you in the echoing halls of Diocletian's bath, steam continues to rise as it always has. This is Rome. If you want to know more about the steamy secrets of the ancient world, stay tuned for more information.